Okay, so a couple of housekeeping items. We have a bag on the table that's being passed around, and what I'd like to do is collect your business cards. Some of you may have came in and didn't get your name tag, so I'm going to not know if you're in the room, so this is another way for me just to check that. And we're going to do a gift card giveaway. So I'm going to keep you hostage until I get some information from you. One is so that you get a gift card, the other is so that we get your feedback at the end of this event. And to Veronica's point and to some of the great questions that were coming out, we want to look at this as a starting point, right? And this is bringing our municipalities together along with some of our lenders. We've got private investors in the room. We have builders. We have developers. All of these conversations can get started now so that we can think outside of the box of what has been, so that we can address this issue. So while we are focusing right now on the Infill project, it may be that this becomes a workforce housing opportunity. It may be that, as our next presenter is going to share with us, this idea of pre-approved state plans at a variety of options available make it where somebody can easily decide what home they want to construct and have built for them. So with that being said, I also want to make sure that you did get a parking pass when you checked in. So if you slipped in here and you didn't get your name badge, you may not have gotten a parking pass. If you raise your hand, we'll make sure you get a parking pass. And if, by the way, you fold it or you do anything to crinkle it, then it may not read easily in the QR code scanner when you go out. So I just want to make sure you're going to be able to get out of here without having to pay for that, okay? Next up, we are so glad to have with us, as everyone said, when they got this booklet, they kind of were excited and they wanted to make sure they were sharing that information with people that could do something with it or think about it. And what it did for me was remind me that a couple of years ago, through our global committee, we went through and saw a factory tour of UniBilt. And this is in our hometown area. So what a great parlay over to them that they have already been doing this, and here we are now coming up with some very similar ideas, and they were so excited about that they wanted to come in and share with us. So I'm going to go ahead and get them set up with their presentation, and Greg Barney is the president of UniBilt. He's going to come up and share with us some exciting information and give you some more insight. Straight to the slideshow from beginning, and then this is a pointer for whatever you need there.
Good.
Okay, it's all
I
you.
need more technical help.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. All right, thank you, Tammy. As Tammy said, my name is Greg Barney. I'm the president of UniBilt Industries. Have with me John Ellis, our regional sales manager, and Clay Barney, our production engineer. So if after the presentation you have any more questions or need some detail I can't answer, those two can help you. And while I'm thinking about it, Clay has some of these brochures we put together for an infill project. It kind of highlights some of the projects we've done in the past. Has some plans that we're doing in different communities now. And some benefits of infill, using modular for infill housing, which I'll talk a little bit about here in my presentation. First, I'll do an introduction to UniBilt. Even though we're here in town, I talked to a lot of people in Vandalia. It's like, where are you guys at? And we have a 120,000 square foot facility on I-70, and they've never been there. So introduce you to UniBilt. Maybe what is modular construction. The last presentation started to talk about modular, so it'd be a good segue into what it is and how it can help with infill affordable housing projects. In particular, I talk a little bit about infill affordable housing projects. I'll talk about some of the projects we've done over the past 25 years in that regard. And then this was based off another presentation we did in Cleveland that had a lot of specifics. So we do have some what I call infill considerations when we're talking to different groups. There's some things to look out for when you're considering modular for infill projects. And then we have some pictures and a video of a project in Columbus that we did probably now 6 or 7 years ago. And the other thing I want to talk about is, as time allows, is one of the best marketing tools we have is doing a tour of our facility. Because, you know, a lot of people when they come to our facility, they really, you know, I always ask what their expectations are, you know, and they're all varied. And it's always interesting when they leave, you know, I get the comment a lot of times, well, why would you build a house any other way? You know, we always use the example, you know, would you buy a car and have them dump a pile of parts in your driveway and have them assemble it? And that's the way we continue to buy housing. You know, I mean, it's, you know, and I used to site build. I used to be a stick builder, and I converted about 10 years ago. So I can kind of speak both. There's a place for both, certainly, but you know, it's you know. So I think the production facility walkthrough. I'll skip through it, but you know, it's kind of important to kind of show you what modular is and what the benefits are, especially with infill housing. And then talk a little bit at the end about how do we work together. We have authorized builders in the 5 states we work in, but we also work directly with land banks, you know, CDCs, different arrangements, more project-focused type work, and then any questions. But certainly, as I talk about anything, you know, please stop me and ask a question, you know, as we go. So, UniBilt Industries, we've been around since 1969 in our same location. The building has grown, but we've operated out at the same location since 1969. We're approaching 13,000 homes we've built since 1969. Majority of our homes are in Ohio, but we do sell in Michigan, Indiana, Kentucky, and West Virginia. So we operate in 5 states. We have builder representation in most of those areas. But we're approaching, I think we're just shy, about 20 homes shy, or 30 homes, John, of 13,000 homes since 1969. We're the largest modular manufacturer in Ohio, especially from a residential perspective. Facility is, which is in the brochure. We have about 120,000 square feet under roof, 20 acres, and we're located at I-70 and I-75. So everything, you know, part of modular is, you know, what we promote is we build in a controlled environment. Our materials come in tarped. They never see rain. We check the moisture before we unload. We bring it into our warehouse. All the construction's inside. So that's one thing we heavily promote. There's certainly elements of mold and lumber. You always got to do is add water, but you know, when you're site building, you know, you have rain, snow, so forth. So we have a very large warehouse and facility where we can bring everything indoors, other than some obvious things like shingles and so forth we store outside. But we sell through a network of builders, approved builders in those 5 states we work in. But like I said, we also work directly with, you know, we worked with the Cleveland Land Bank, Hamilton County Land Bank, working with some CDCs in Columbus right now. So we have those arrangements as well that we work directly out of our facility with. So what is modular construction? And again, a little deeper into this, I'll have a plant tour, picture tour that'll kind of explain it a little bit more. But modular construction is built to the same code as you would site build. It's the same exact residential code in all the 5 states. We have to adhere to their residential code. It's just built in very large sections and brought out to the foundation and set on the foundation with a large crane. Our product typically has more adhesives in it. It has structurally has more wood in it, because you got to understand that it has to exist or go through a route of 60, 65 miles down the highway. We got to pick it up with a crane and set it on the foundation. So by its nature, it has to be a strong build to withstand the movement. And like I said, another important point of modular, it's built in a controlled environment. everything's indoors. Our plant's not air conditioned, but it's heated in the wintertime. All materials are stored indoors. And what that allows us to do, the next point is no weather delays. If it's raining, snowing, sleet, whatever's doing outside, we're producing. So, if we have if we start a house today, we can tell exactly when it's going to come offline and not have any weather delays or any issues like that. Now, people showing up on snow days and so forth is a different issue. Everybody fights that issue, but as far as weather delays, that's one of the benefits is modular. The only time weather ever plays into what we're doing is our delivery process. When we take a house out and uncover it, obviously if heavy rain, we can't do it during heavy rains or anything like that. The other benefit of modular is we have constant supervision and quality assurance on our production floor. We have supervisors throughout our plant that's constantly monitoring, what's being done and the quality of what's being done. And we also have a quality assurance program through the state of Ohio that it's very regimented that we follow to make sure the proper fasteners are being used, proper adhesives, the proper grades of wood, and so forth. And the way that works with modular is we submit to the Board of Building Standards has a department. These are called industrialized units. So we'll submit, our state submittals are typically 40 to 50 pages. We submit for approvals. They send it back to us, and we have to build it exactly as we submitted it. So once it hits the production floor, there's no change orders. There's no, we can't pull it aside. And somebody calls in and say, we want to move a wall. That's why it's very important our builders on the upfront into things to make sure they have the design down and review their customers and selections, because once it starts, there's no changes can be made. And then our quality assurance has to follow it through the plant and document it's, with a traveler through the plant every step of the way, and we're regulated by the state. And then the local builder, they take our state submittals, and they do have to submit locally for a permit, because locally they're looking at the foundation the builder's putting in, if they're building garages or porches attached to the home, that all gets inspected locally. So it's kind of a bifurcated process. That question always comes up, and it's actually most communities we work in throughout Ohio, pretty much all communities now are very familiar with modular, very familiar with the process. But it is bifurcated, and there are inspections that are required on site of the local builder. Modular projects shortened overall timeline. As we're building, like I said, if we're starting a house today, our builders know exactly when it's going to come offline, so they actually will time their foundation, so you're running a parallel schedule at that point, so you can shorten that build time, which hopefully reduces cost of the overall project. Time equals cost on any project, and if you can shorten that time down, it makes a big difference on cost. And as I said, we'll transport large modular sections to the job site and set them on the foundation with a crane. We've done typical ranch house, or sometimes 2 modules, sometimes 3. We did a house in West Virginia a few years ago that was, I think, 7 modules, about 4,600 square feet. And we kind of cover a broad range. We do affordable housing projects, and John's working with a developer. They're single-family detached condos. They sell for, 1.3, 1.5 million. So, we're a little bit of more of a boutique, I guess, in that kind of sense. And we can do one-offs. We have builders that come to us with plans, and we're nimble enough we can do one-offs as well. But, certainly for the infill affordable housing, repetition and simplification of design, so the site work, it's, that condo project has a high degree of site work that needs done, whereas, infill projects we try to promote projects the site work is more limited in scope. So again, time on the project. And when we deliver a house, it's generally 85% complete. We set it on the foundation, it's weathered in, it's typically, unless it's getting metal roofs, there's shingles on the roof, it's The roof shingled. It's wrapped with house wrap. It's lockable. When we do infill projects in a lot of communities, the builder will put an alarm in day one on the house. So it's definitely a more secure setting versus a stick build. So infill, affordable housing, shortened time on a project, which I already mentioned, and less disruption to the neighborhood. So, you get the foundation built. We come in for a day. We're typically there maybe 6, 7, 8 hours. Depends on the house. And typically, you'll see a couple of photos here. The block where the house is going in is typically closed for the day. And we have to watch our routing in and out and parking and so forth. But, that one day we're in there, and then the house is set on a foundation. And it's, like I said, it's at least 85% complete. So it's less disruption to an infill neighborhood in the process versus trucks in and out for a period of 6 months. And actually we found that when you close these neighborhoods off, we bring in a very large crane. A lot of people like to watch, and it's kind of offsets the aggravation of being, your street being closed down for the day. So most people come out and watch and kind of enjoy watching the process. For infill, like I said, it's more secure, it's lockable, weathered in at the time of the set. A lot of times, projects we're doing in Columbus, we've probably done over, in the last 6 years, 7 years, 200 units in Columbus, in the South neighborhood, in the Linden neighborhood, currently in the Linden neighborhood off Cleveland. There's also stick builders in the neighborhood. Lumber disappears. Builder had a house after it was framed caught on fire. Whereas the only thing we've experienced, and for the most part, was maybe a nuisance broken window. If a subcontractor leaves a tool within sight, somebody throws a rock through a window, grabs a tool or whatever. So it's a lot less subject to the vandalism and the theft on infill type building. And another advantage, you can lock in your vertical construction cost component. With us, we go through the plans. We make selections, and then your final cost. You sign a contract, and you're not no change orders. We build it, we deliver it, and that's it. So you got a guaranteed construction cost element at that point. It's an efficient path to meet green building standards. We've done LIHTC projects that are LEED certified. I've done green builds of different degree. We can. It's easier for us to meet green building standards because of, number one, we recycle a lot of components. Our vinyl siding, our wire, our offcuts of wood. If we don't use it for blocking, we take it to a gentleman that makes mulch out of our wood. So our actual waste component is significantly less than a site build. So we track that for these projects. Generally, when we're doing a LEED certified or a green build, we may change some specs on some plumbing fixtures, but generally, that's about it. That's you score a lot of points with our type of construction in those type of projects. And you've seen some of the pictures, the construction methods we use provide for a more energy efficient home at the end of the day for the homeowner. A lot of things we do that give the home strength, such as some of the adhesives, and translate into a stronger, more energy efficient home for the home buyer at the end of the day. So generally our HERS ratings are considerably lower, our blower door tests, than what you would find on a site-built home. They're just more airtight the way they're built, which you'll see in a minute. When we're talking about infill, some of the things, a lot of people get all excited and they call me and say, I got perfect lots for infill. Power lines are an issue. We don't, crane companies, we won't lift over electric lines. We did a house in Columbus not long ago, we had to lift over pretty heavy fiber lines, and actually it took three different crane companies to get able to do that. So when you're looking at any lots, typically, Google Earth's a wonderful tool. We have people call in and say, hey, I'm looking at these addresses, take a look at them, and then we'll send somebody out to look at them. So power lines, lot widths, fire separation, and these infill, we're dealing with that all day long. Veronica showed we're building a house very similar to that first house plan that she showed. We're part of our Welcome Home program in Sandusky, actually. We're building 34 homes up there. I think we've got, a dozen built so far in the yard, waiting for foundations. And, lot widths are always an issue, and when you get into that narrow, it's 2 modules. We have a 60-foot module with a downstairs bedroom. It's, like I said, very similar to that plan. We have two bedrooms upstairs and a shorter module. You can fit those in some very narrow lots. A lot of our duplexes built in Columbus will have, fire separation walls on the outside and the inside, and we're used to dealing with very, very tight lot situations. And typically, when we're in infill situations, we need module staging areas where, when we bring modules into town, like in Columbus, for example, and normally a Columbus set would be a 1 day out, 1 day back. But navigating the streets, we have to bring them to a staging area, and then the set day, bring them from that staging area over, because it slows things down navigating some of the streets. And road closure and parking control, and those are the primary considerations. We're dealing with affordable housing and infill. I think I have a few pictures. So this is a project we did in Cincinnati and Walnut Hills for Hamilton County Port Authority. There's 6 houses on this road, and John didn't want me to show the pictures because of the power lines, because I just said power lines are an issue. But it does show, like, the city wanted that wall maintained, that stone retaining wall, and obviously the power lines weren't going to go anywhere. So if we had to set from the front, this would be a no-go on these lots. We were fortunate enough, this was an old industrial site, and we had a very wide alley in the back where we could get in from the rear alley entrance. So, when I mentioned earlier, power lines are an obstacle. If we can get in, a lot of times we can't, but if we can get in, you got to figure we're bringing in 80 feet of truck and an all-terrain crane into these lots. So when you've got an alley that's overgrown at about 8 foot wide, 10 foot wide, and a very narrow throat to pull into, unless you're dragging it across somebody's yard, which most people tend to not like that because we leave very heavy ruts. But this particular case, that's why I wanted to show it. It's like, don't automatically rule it out, but be aware power lines are an issue. But we did 6 houses here, I think 1 or 2, one you can't see, on Walnut Hills. And then we did another 6, which I think I have some pictures of, in Evanston on St. Ledger. This is the house set in Troy. Just to give an example of, when we move in, we pretty much take the whole block. Our modules are on the other side of that crane. Once the crane comes in, sets up with counterweights, puts its outriggers out, and then starts picking our modules. You can see here, we're kind of threading the needle here a little bit. This lot was, 30 foot wide? It's Clay's house. It was 30 foot wide. So we actually ended up lifting over a little bit of the corner of that house on the right. The trusses you see are for the garage. That's built on site typically. Doesn't really make sense to do the expensive modular for garages or porches or anything like that. This is the houses on St. Ledger for the Port Authority in Cincinnati. That was a 4-bedroom, 2-story. They did some 2.5 stories in their project. And I think we got a video next of, this is a set in Columbus. Like I said, we've done about 200 units for this group in Columbus, and this, I think, was the very first build we did for them. Give you an idea of what's involved in a infill set. I think it's about a minute or so long. This is a small 3-bedroom, 1,200 square foot, 2-story house. We probably did about 30 of these in Columbus as part of that project. Most of the homes they built up there on basements because there were lots that there were houses on them prior, and most of the time with the tear downs, the soil conditions aren't the best. That's the other thing you have to be aware of with infill lots. I mean, you're dealing with probably a house that's been torn down, and in the older days, the foundation might not have been cleaned out very well. So they just automatically go to basements on their lots. The way this one goes together, this particular one, the other half of that roof will be shingled on site.
So you said this can be done in one day?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That house, we're probably, what, 4 or 5 hours setting that house? Once we get in there and set it. Yeah. A ranch home, sometimes we can be there 4 hours. I mean, that's a good day. You know, I'm getting there and back. You know, we hit snags too. I mean, we were doing one of these houses about 2 months ago, and the builder wasn't aware that where we staged in Columbus is off of, it's a crane yard off of 71 somewhere. And they had the exit we were getting off, they had I guess a 3-day concert, and we got stuck in 2 hours of traffic. And it was a stretch getting done, because our drivers are also our set crew. They get out, and they're limited to the number of hours they can work in a day. You know, they're limited to a 14-hour day. They typically get into our yard at 7 o'clock, load and go, but they got to be back in our yard by 9 o'clock. They're regulated by, and they have long days. Our set crew works very long days in the summertime. We do houses, and we just did one in Put in Bay. We've probably done over 100 houses on the island. We'll take them up, put them on the ferry, go across whatever island, Kelly's Island, Put in Bay. It's a very popular, method to build on the islands. It's expensive, ferry ride, but versus bringing trucks of material over. The crane will get on the ferry and come over, and then we'll set and come home. That's typically a two-day set. So some days we have a travel day, and then we set the next day and come home. So like I said, I don't know where I'm at on time. I'll go through these kind of fast with these are kind of the plant tour type things. We've been in our building since 1969. I'll tell people it's not the prettiest building sometimes, but it keeps us dry. We're not going to run any beauty contests, but it's clean and dry. This was the original manufacturing facility. It's now a warehouse where we store materials. We store everything indoors. One of the things we promote is our saw shop, where probably 95% of our material at Better is cut in the shop. And this component saw, he's running floor joists there. So he'll run a package of floor joists in about 15, 20 minutes. And every one is cut to the exact precise length. There's 5 saw blades in here. We can make multiple cuts at one time, scarf cuts for different components and so forth. So what he'll do is call out of the lumber, look for crown, wane, whatever, and then call it out. The stuff that's unacceptable. We have standards we have to meet through our quality assurance program, and then so this is all cut and then goes into where we build our decks for assembly. We press our own trusses. You'll see a little later on a truss drawing or a truss component that shows you how we fold our trusses down. There's a hinge component to our truss, and we can meet any roof pitch, a 10-12, 12-12, 8-12. So it's not the old days where you have a 312 and that's it, type roof. So we can fit typically with the construction of architecture of any neighborhood. That's where we build our decks. The one thing, I'll show you in here, everything we build is on a flat fixture, and it squares it. Our tolerances are very tight for square and true and flat. We do our plumbing while it's on the deck table. At the end of this, we'll do a 30-minute air test as part of our quality assurance program, and then we'll pass it on to the next stage. We cover all our decks with paper to keep them clean, so when we get to the finished stage, it's our subfloor doesn't have ground in drywall dust or anything. This is something I wanted to kind of highlight is we build our exterior walls on these fixtures that we lay the drywall. We kind of build from the inside out. We lay our drywall down first. We frame the wall, and then we clamp it down. We clamp it down so it's on a perfectly flat surface, and we spray this 2-part adhesive that comes out of these. I might have passed it, and that's what holds the drywall onto the exterior wall. And the advantage is for us, that's a bond the entire length of that stud. We can seal off that wall cavity for energy efficiency, and we don't have to finish screws or nails on the other side, and no nail pops. So all our exterior walls are done that way. Our roof is done that way as well. And And again, for the home buyer, it's a stronger home. It's more energy efficient because it's sealing off those cavities. We're working from the inside out. You can see him here spraying it in. Within about 15 minutes, we can pick that wall up and set it on the deck. So there's how we build our roofs. The drywall is down on the table. The hinge, you can see how the hinge component works. It's a MyTech fastener press plate that allows us to move these walls and fold them up. So we get the job site. Those are, we take the crane, attach it, and erect the roof. We wire it while it's down on the table, pick it up, set it on the box, and we're framed. And our exterior walls are drywalled. I like to think that you see the LVL in there. A lot more engineering typically goes into our product than I would say a site-built home. All this stuff's pre-engineered. It's by us, our own department, our drafting. We do all our own drawing. Someone brings us a plan similar to any of those. We'll what we call modularize it. We'll turn it into a modular plan so we can build it in components. How am I doing on time? About it? Okay. Well, I thought I was going to run short, but these pictures, I could spend 3 hours with somebody that's in construction in a plant tour. But if you want to come to a tour, call us up, grab a card from us. That's our best form of marketing is the tours. Second Saturday of a month, we have public tours. So it's typically when our builders will send potential customers in. We just had one last Saturday. So yes, 10 o'clock, the second Saturday of every month, we have a tour. We start at 10. We take everybody out as a group. In any groups, a lot of times when we're working with, say a land bank or something like that, we like to kind of do that more private during working hours so you can see, how things are, how the soup's made, so to speak. Some projects, one thing I'd like to hit on real quick. Sorry, I didn't realize I was going to run over. So like I said, we've been doing infill housing for at least the past 25 years, probably before. The modular industry kind of grew up under suburban rural building out of a little bit out of necessity because of lack of builders in some areas. So it was primarily a rural type build for the most part, generally speaking. But we've been doing infill for over 25 years. Early in 2000, we did 48 single-family homes in Toledo. We did downtown. You may recognize what we call a lighthouse project, which is on Patterson, the real colorful townhouse project across from Dayton Dragons. That's our product. We did some light tech projects. Cincinnati, we did a project with the Model Group, and Evanston at the 5 Point area multifamily project. Cincinnati, Cleveland. Right now, we're currently, like I said, we've done about 200 units in Columbus so far with the group. Another project we just completed I want to talk about just a little bit is called Vista Village in Columbus. It's a project for homeless, formerly incarcerated, a private developer. The first phase we built 41, they're one-bedroom homes. They have a full working kitchen, they have a bathroom, walk-in closet, bedroom. The developer built a community center, has washer and dryer, gathering space, commercial kitchen, offices, and they provide all social services to bring somebody kind of back into being a productive member of society, basically. So homeless, we just finished 41 homes early this year, I think it was. I talked to them yesterday, and they've got about 3/4 of them full. They're trying to take it slow a little bit because there's a little bit of learning curve to it. And kind of off that project, we're working with Miami Valley Housing Organization, with Leah's group back there, on a project called Beacon Place over off of Needmore and 202, right? That'll probably occur late 2026 maybe, or sometime 2026. So you're going to see more and more of those projects. You talked about ADUs, you talked about, and this is, actually John Perez, the developer at Vista Village, called me yesterday and said the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development is visiting in September, and they were asked to be an exhibitor along with us. They've asked us to be along on the National Mall this fall. So you're going to see more and more of these programs as alternative housing. I mean, there's a lot of neat stuff we're working on, but and we're actually working locally with County Corp. We got 5 houses in production right now that's going over in the Good Sam neighborhood, single car garage, 1,200 square foot houses. Yeah, a lot of stuff going on. So, yeah, thank you.
Question, how large square footage in one modular?
Good question. The largest framed dimension is 15.8 by 60, and that's mainly for travel restrictions. So unless we want to get into super load permits, all our loads are permitted through ODOT as oversized loads. But when you start getting beyond 16 feet, it gets into super loads and it gets expensive. So you can transport bigger stuff, but it's just not practical.
So one in West Virginia, it's 7 units. How does that work with inside walls? The inside walls are the same as the outside walls of the modular?
Well, we call them mate walls, where the units come together. So our mate walls are 2x4 walls. So you'll have, like on a ranch, on the mate walls where the 2 modules come together, you have 2 2x4 walls and typically an airspace. And we use a split jam cased openings and doorways, and that's, when people a tell sign of modular is that. I mean, most people say, oh, you got nice wide jambs and woodwork, and if you watch your designs, I mean, we've got some designs that, people walk in them and say, I can't believe this is modular, and one thing I didn't mention, I'm sorry if I'm going over. One thing I didn't mention, there's a distinction between manufactured and modular homes. Modular homes are built to the same code as you would site build. Manufactured homes typically built to a HUD code. There's nothing wrong. There's different product, different places. But when we go into a community and propose a project, some people, they kind of have this vision. You're pulling it in, pulling the wheels off of it, put some awning around it, and being done. And you got to get past, and typically how we do that. I mean, I've had people, the project didn't go through, but I had people from an HOA come in that were kind of, I don't know about that. And there was about a half a dozen came in, and it was a local community. And once we were done, they were thrilled about it, and showing them some designs and the quality of the construction and so forth. So, and that's our biggest marketing hurdle, to be honest with you, is, because most people, when you mention it, they think of, and I hate to say this because there's a place for everything, but like a double wide type thing, or more of a manufactured unit where it's, a kind of a, little roof, and, you pull the wheels off and you're done. And that's, and you're going to see more and more. I mean, modular is becoming more popular just because it's just so hard to get stuff built. Skilled people building stuff in the field. You can ask Lance. I mean, of people, skilled carpenters that can do rough framing are becoming a rare breed. And our systems, we have skilled people, don't get me wrong, but we have systems in place that we can bring someone in, as long as they have a work ethic and willing to show up for work, which is a big hurdle these days, we can teach them what to do. And that allows us to be more efficient.
So once you start the project, you've got the architectural plans and you've done our addition. Once you start it, how long does it take to finish?
Generally about 3 to 4 weeks. I mean, it depends. That's a function of people. The more people you have in a plant, the more you can turn the dial up. And that's kind of we're not, there's some plants that are built that are very production oriented that, they're going to say, hey, here's whatever, a dozen plans we build and you can't make any changes, which is kind of a dream, actually. I'm kind of more of the custom background, and we can do different things. And, but I mean, we're kind of swinging the pendulum. When I first came to UniBilt, we were, pushing the limits on customization a lot, and now with the labor, I'm trying to get the pendulum back a little more this way, where, because today's buyer, it's in the market we're in, it's cost, and before it was everybody wants to customize and do this, do that, and now more it's like, what can you give me a good product at a price? And our specs are pretty high. We use Anderson 200 windows as our standard spec, we offer a vinyl window. Our base and casing, our casing's 3.5 inch, our base is 5.5, 5.25. So our specs are pretty high. We use all shawl flooring products, and we buy direct from manufacturers, which allows us to be very cost efficient. And we're part of a very large buying co-op that we buy very efficiently.
So have you done, I'm sure you have, but some sort of cost comparison as stick build versus your build?
Yeah, and that's always tough because you know, a lot of times it's you can't get somebody to go through the exercise of here, take our plans and price it sometimes, and it's hard to get accurate. But at the end of the day, and a lot of it depends on the builder efficiency as well too. Obviously, any project depends on that. But at the end of the day, I would expect us to come in maybe 10-15% cheaper in a perfect world. But sometimes those are, you know, we do get a lot of calls. You know, they say, hey, we've got a project, it's too expensive to build. Site build, you know, we're going to look at modular and think it's 30-40% cheaper. We build with the same materials as you would site build. We buy very efficiently, we build very efficiently, but we also truck it out to the site, which is expensive. We have a crane on site, which is generally anywhere from $5,000 to, you know, we've done sets that was $12,000, you know, of a crane, just an all-terrain crane being out there. So that also offsets some of those. But again, we can offer a shorter build time. And that is a cost savings. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.